talk more about why this is such an important issue here in Rhode Island and from the perspective of law enforcement, I'd now like to invite Attorney General Neronha to say a few words.
Thank you, Congressman, and Diana and Jennifer, Tanya and Peter. It's good to be here with you. You know, I look at this issue, frankly, more from the perspective of my time as United States Attorney, because the issues we're talking about are issues that we confronted all the time. You know, particularly the issue of delayed denials. What a delayed denial is when somebody under the current federal law applies for a firearm, the FBI simply can't get the background check done in time. And then after 72 hours, the gun must be turned over to the person who has applied to buy it, irrespective of what the background check may eventually find. Now, Rhode Island, we have a 7-day waiting period, so it can be extended out to 7 days. But if at the end of that 7 days, provided that the state background check, which is different, is met, then the person gets that firearm. And so we talk a lot about wanting to keep hands out of people who shouldn't have them. I think everyone agrees with that, no matter where you stand on the Second Amendment, no matter where you stand on gun rights. Everyone agrees, I think, that someone who shouldn't have a gun, quote unquote, someone with a criminal record, shouldn't have access to the firearm. And the way to make sure that doesn't happen is to make sure that a background check is complete before they do. And so, you know, these delayed denials are no hypothetical issue. You know, when I was running for office, I went back and looked back in 2015 and 2015, 2016, for when there was data at the time, and there were 4,000 delayed denials across the country at that point. In 2017, according to FBI data and according to the Wall Street Journal, which I read this morning, by 2017 there were 6,000 delayed denials. So that's 6,000 instances where someone got a firearm that ultimately the background check, when it was done, determined they shouldn't get it, but they got it anyway. So what happens at that point? I think many of us, I know a lot of Rhode Islanders are surprised that what happens at that point is ATF has to go chase that gun down. So think about that for a minute. Somebody gets a gun because of this rule that everyone acknowledges they shouldn't have, they've got it, and then an ATF agent in Rhode Island and in Massachusetts and in Colorado has to run out and track that gun down. I think we can all see the problem with that. Number one, what does the person do with a gun in the meantime? And of course, when they're confronted at that point, where they have to give the gun back, nobody really wants to do that. So this is a common sense fix, and I applaud the Congressman Cicilline, for leading the charge on this. This is a common sense fix that everyone ought to be able to get behind to really make Rhode Islanders and everyone in the United States safer. To me, it is fundamentally a no-brainer to do this. So that's number one. You know, the other thing are these private sales. We ought to have a universal national requirement that when you're selling a firearm to somebody else, that person be checked as well. And there's just no reason to have a loophole this big that you can drive a truck through. The reality is that everyone who purchases a firearm ought to have their background checked. And again, it's the same principle. It's the same principle that we talk about all the time, no matter where you stand on the Second Amendment. Bad guys or bad women shouldn't have a gun in their hands. This is a means of preventing that from happening. And so again, I want to applaud the Congress, the House of Representatives for passing this legislation. My hope is that the Senate will as well. It will make all of us safer. And again, I guess just to end where I began, these are not things, really, that should be very controversial. You know, I remember again when I was thinking of where I stood on gun policy 3-4 years ago. These were the ones which I thought everyone could agree on. I mean, there are some, you know, that I believe ought to happen, and we've advocated for those here in Rhode Island, but on these we should all be able to agree. And so my hope is that we'll get this one over the finish line, Congressman, and we'll all be a lot safer as a result. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, General, for your words and for your great work.